Welcome to the second episode of Torque and Horsepower Podcast. I'm your co-host, Eric Herbert, owner of Herbert Performance Company.
And I'm your co-host, Alex Sursa, owner of DBM Equipment Repair and Rental.
Our special guest today is James Moore, HDB. He'll explain that nickname later.
Thanks for the invite, guys.
Yeah, we're happy to have you here. Thank you for coming out.
No problem.
We have quite the spread this morning, from mimosas to Bloody Marys and cupcakes and all kinds of shit, so it's a nice surprise.
Yeah, that's a legit
It is.
Bloody Mary bar right there.
Yeah,
And we started off with a little Blanton's bourbon.
we did,
So
yeah.
that doesn't hurt.
We're getting the hammer fucked up on a Bloody over there. He ate all the food out of it already, so that's good.
Forgot to introduce the producer, sound engineer, Drew Miles, the Hammer. I'm not going to explain what the hammer means. So, Jimmy,
Yep.
how long you been in Reno?
Born and raised here. Born here in Reno, 75, and grew up here. And my dad was from Kentucky, so we would go back to Kentucky all the time during the summer, spend the whole summers back there. So kind of split my time between here and there, and ended up staying here.
You like Kentucky more or Reno, apparently, huh?
Yeah, well, didn't really have a choice when I was a kid, so I was stuck here in Reno. But Kentucky, it's just a whole different vibe down there. Green, rain, lots of stuff going on as far as hunting, fishing, all that kind of stuff
Right,
like
right.
that. A lot more than what we have out here to offer.
Yeah, exactly.
Not so spread out. No.
So cars. Did you get into hot rods on your own, or was your dad a hot rodder?
No, my dad was there. He used to build engines for a living there for a while. Built some for NASCAR. And he was always tinkering around in the garage and building this or fixing this. And so when I was in kindergarten, I guess, so 5-6 years old, he found a 1936 Chevrolet Coupe, and he found it in the back of in a valley in an abandoned mine shaft. So we ended up, and it took him a while to chase down the owner of who owned the car, and finally found him, and it was actually owned by the military. It was underneath a military title still, so nobody actually really truly owned it other than the military. Well, it had been there for, God knows how long, probably 50 years.
Right.
And so we were able to drag it out of the abandoned mine shaft, and I think he paid $900 for it at the time. Towed it back to the house, and like I said, he threw an old battery he had in the garage there inside of it, and tore the rat's nest out of the carburetor, and poured some gasoline down her, and man, she fired right up. And I used to, as a kid, I would drive it around the backyard.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, with the original straight six that was in it, and drove it around until he started customizing it, taking the engine out, and building a hot rod out of it.
What's this car look like if you're going to describe
Yeah.
it?
I've heard somebody tell me that it looked like Napoleon's hat there, Eric. But we've between my dad and I, we had it done for we've had it finished probably 5 or 6 times, and it's been a while ago. I tore it back down, and hopefully this will be the last time that I put it back together. And
It's never really
put it
finished, right?
No, you get sick of. I got sick of seeing it. Color. It was either black or it's been white and red and yellow, and just after a while you just get tired of looking. I do. I get tired of looking at the same color.
Right.
It's like a kitchen remodel.
Yeah.
As soon as you finish, you start again.
Right.
Yeah, because somebody's not happy about it.
Yep. Been there.
No.
So what got you into heavy equipment then, if you were doing that?
Also, my dad again. My dad, he was the superintendent for the Catholic diocese for the cemeteries in Reno and Las Vegas.
Oh, okay.
So as a kid, I'd get to go to work with Dad,
Right.
and do this and that. So he'd put me on a backhoe here or there and teach me how to get to sit on his lap and run the controls. And then once I got old enough to where he kind of figured I knew what I was doing, then I actually got to start digging graves. So I was, I'm probably one of the only 10-year-olds that you probably know that's ever dug a grave.
What'd you do with Dad this Saturday? Oh, we fucking buried some people.
Yeah,
But
pretty
that was
much.
good.
Yeah, I've buried a lot of boxes in my time,
Right.
so no. But so it went from that, driving dump trucks around and stuff like that with him, and lawnmowers, and all the stuff that basically any job that anybody there didn't want to do. I'll put Jimmy on it, he'll do it.
Right.
Get on the lawnmower and mow the lawn for 12 hours a day.
Right.
So doing that stuff, and got really proficient. I was pretty good on a backhoe by the time I was 13 or 14. So
Right.
So kind of moved on from there.
Yeah, it's weird that that's basically the same way I got into
No.
doing what I'm doing. Is my dad just that was the only time we had together was when I was with him,
Yeah.
and he had to work all the time. So that's what we were doing.
No,
Similar shit.
And with today, the good old days are gone. So
Right.
it's really hard to bring your kid to
Right.
work nowadays. I could never bring my son when working at the pit where I work at now and have him jump in the loader and do
Right.
that. I mean that just doesn't fly anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Same for me. Like I bring my kids to the shop and stuff, and they can mess around with stuff at the shop. But as far as customers' jobs, you can't. When I was little, my dad used to bring
Yeah.
me with him in his Cashman truck and everything. Now you can't bring your kids with
No,
you.
it's not
yeah.
the same world anymore. But from there, so then I ran a drill rig for a while doing exploration drilling. Did that for a few years and started noticing, a lot of the old timers were missing fingers or
Right, yeah.
part of their foot or, had always missing something. So,
On their fourth wife.
oh man, no joke. 'Cause
Yeah.
you were gone a lot.
Yeah.
And I just had a son at the time, so I didn't want to be gone so much. I wanted to be back there where I could see him, grow up when they're 1, 2, 3 years old. All that
Right,
stuff
right.
going on. So got out of that, and then I actually went to work for the cemetery, where my dad worked out there. Worked there for a couple of years, and it ended up being just the regular funerals and stuff like that you have to attend and work at. They're not to bring this down, but I mean they're okay. But the ones that really bothered me, where I didn't want to do it anymore, is when you had to do a kids.
Right. Yeah. That.
Sure.
makes sense.
Oh,
You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Stuff like that. I mean,
That really brings your day down for
it,
sure.
it really did,
Yeah.
and especially having a child at the time, just
Right.
born. It was like, man, it really made you kind of think about what was going on. So I didn't want to do that anymore. And my uncle actually worked at Rhyolite Aggregate, which is a sand and gravel pit here in Reno. And at the time, you either had to die or retire
Right.
to get a job there. So somebody retired or died or whatever the chance was. So I got a chance to get on there, and hell, I've been there for going on 24 years.
Oh no shit, huh?
Yeah.
That's a long time.
it's interesting that back in the day when the times were good, it was common for your kids to learn your trade.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
And there was 7 generations of butchers and grocery store owners
Masons.
and
Yeah.
Well,
And that's what my old man told me. He said, you don't have to do what I do, but this is the only thing I know, so you're going to learn it because
No.
I have to teach you how to do something.
absolutely.
and that's what's so hard about, let's say, our industry,
Right.
that you're connected with is that's how you were able to get people interested in doing that, let's say, when they got older for a living.
Right.
The problem now is you can't do that. So there's a downfall in trying to get people or comparable people in there, when you're trying to hire somebody to run a piece of
Right.
equipment. Because you get all kind of applicants that go, oh yeah, I can run that. And then you watch them for literally 30 seconds and you go, no.
No, you can't.
You know how to run it. There's a difference between running something and operating.
Well, and there's a gap right now because I found out about a program this summer that we did. It's called the Comstock program. Lyon County puts it on, and they try to match kids who they don't necessarily want to go to college or they don't think that they're going to make it to college. They'll try and match them with local employers. So we did 2 kids this summer, a boy and a girl. And the hard part about it, though, is that I think the program's really good, but at the same time, we can't really show them what we do because they can't come with us. So they can do stuff at the shop, but it's not the same thing as coming with us. So I think that they're trying to bridge that gap, but right now with you guys deal with M. Shaw and everything, it's a no-go policy. There's no leeway. There's no anything. It is what it is, and that's it.
And that's why there's such a downswing, let's say, in our industry as far as operators and things like that, because there's not that opportunity to grow anymore, from a kid.
Well, you don't have a bunch of kids out on farm equipment
No.
and skid steers and stuff like that. They're literally going from school to straight to trying to learn how to operate equipment. And it's not something that you just pick up in a day.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's all over every industry right now. What do you want to do when you grow up? Well, right now they go to daycare. Both parents work. And you don't go to work with either one of your parents.
Right.
You know.
And
How do you know?
You don't learn to do what your parents are doing because
No.
you can't.
No, it's rare. I mean, my wife is 3rd generation nurse,
Right.
and I don't know. Like, she didn't really go to work with her mom.
Right.
I don't know if there was just a common interest in welfare. Like,
Yeah,
we want to
exactly.
help people. We want to make people feel better, and she got that gene, and she wanted to do it. But yeah, my dad was a dentist. I went to work with him.
Right.
I didn't want to be a dentist.
Did you get to get in there and mess with their mouths?
My dad was a Volkswagen guy. We were always tinkering. If you had a Volkswagen, the first thing you had to do before you drove it was work on it.
Right.
And I was like, "What are you doing, Dad?" I'm like, "Where's my dad?" Where's Dad? Oh, he's in the garage. I knew what he was doing. He was working on something.
He was putting oil in it.
Yeah.
And so to have a relationship with my dad, yeah, he was putting oil in it for sure. To have a relationship with him, I had to go do what he was doing, and I got involved. I got interested and asked a million questions, probably annoying, but yeah, he was working on stuff. That was his hobby,
Right.
and then I ran with his hobby, which is kind of different. But
Well, it's funny. It comes full circle too, because I remember like my dad getting pissed at me all the time for not putting his tools back and just yard selling his fucking service truck and
man.
stuff. Well, I was just on vacation for 3 weeks and I came back and my service truck looks like a fucking bomb went off on it, and there's just shit everywhere. It took me a day to go around the shop, find all my tools, put them back in the service truck, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what happened? And he's like, huh? That's weird, huh? I was like, oh, I'll go fuck myself, thanks, dude. Yeah.
Funny how that happens.
Yeah. I was like, do you know where my half inch impact went? He's like, that is weird. No. He's like, thanks, Dad.
do you know who used it last? Oh yeah, it was me.
Yeah, I don't know where it is, though.
It might be stuck on a wheel somewhere.
Yeah. He's like, did you check the shop bench? Yeah, Dad, I did. It's not there.
Oh, that's funny.
But my kids do it to me now, too, especially, like, they want to help me work on their bikes and stuff, and, they'll pull out a screwdriver, hand it to me, I set it down, then my little one just takes off with it, leaves it somewhere. So then I asked the older one, where'd the screwdriver go? He's like, oh, I don't know. So it comes full circle. It's fun, though.
You almost need a separate toolbox for the kids.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, for sure.
Here's your tools. We're going to paint them bright orange so we can find them in the lawn.
Yep.
Those are yours. Don't touch Dad's.
Yep.
You know, I almost think that that kids are the Snap-ons guys' greatest asset.
Oh, they are, for sure, yeah. He finds out, oh, you got kids? I'm going to stop by.
I'll be here on Wednesday and Friday.
Yeah, exactly.
You're going to be missing something. If it fits a bike, you're going to be missing
Yep.
it.
If it's anything metric, if it's 12, 8, 10, it's gone.
Yep.
She
Yeah,
got
but we do the same thing with my kids too. Is like I have a Mini X and a skid steer, and like my oldest can run the skid steer. I mean, he's not like performing, but he's 7 and he can unload stuff off my trailer with it, that kind of stuff. But same thing as my old man. This is what I know how to do. You at least have to learn it, because even if you don't want to do it, you have to learn it.
You have something to fall back on. At least
Yep.
you have a knowledge.
And that's like one of the few times that we get to hang out, because I do work a lot. So if he comes with me, that's when we get to hang out. Is me doing stuff. I do try to do a little bit better with the bike racing and stuff like that, but it's few and far between, because it's hard to do.
Yeah.
So what's your biggest challenge, Alex? Now that you're running the show, your kids probably aren't going to do what you do you think?
I don't know. My oldest one, I don't think he will. He's he might be interested in like the business side of things, but he's not super interested in the mechanic side of stuff. My little one, Harvey, he's a fucking toss up. He's a wild man. He's kind of an asshole. He's a good kid, but he definitely is more interested in like working on stuff with me.
Do you think that's your succession plan?
Oh no, I want to sell.
You want to sell?
Yeah, eventually I want to sell. I mean, if they want to take it over, that'd be great. I would love them to, but if they don't want to, then I'm fine with selling. I don't know. I do have like a love for the name and the business that we've created, but at the same time, if they don't want it, then I would be fine with selling it. But I mean, I hope one of them wants it. That would be super cool if they do. But I wouldn't pressure them into wanting it.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, my oldest is really into like computers and video games and doing that kind of stuff. My youngest one, he'll play on his iPad for a minute. They get like an hour during the week to play on them, and my youngest will like turn it on and then go do something else, and it just plays. And he'll go play with toys, or he has little dirt bikes that he plays around with, or he'll fake like he's fixing his own toys and stuff like that. Whereas my oldest, he's not as into it.
What's your challenge, Jimmy, at work?
You
Like
know,
the way the industry's going, I know that there's a housing development that backs right up to the pit. You guys have like a 100-year lease on the dirt?
I'm not really sure how. Something like at the time when they bought it, it was something like that. Or you know what? I don't know if they leased it or they actually own the property. I think they actually own the property, but yeah, I mean, we got housing developments coming. I mean, basically right up to the entryway of the pit. I mean, literally 40 yards from our scale house.
Right. And the rest of the pits in the area haven't had good luck with that situation.
No, I mean, and really, the reason why we've been able to make it as long as we have is because they've been there since the 60s,
Right.
the early 60s. So they've been kind of grandfathered into everything. So, eventually that's going to be the downfall. The biggest challenge right now in the industry that we're dealing with is, the economy is starting to slow down, and everybody's talking about a recession and this and that. Well, in our industry, and I'm sure Alex, I'm sure you see it on your side somewhat, but we're usually the first one to see what's going on because building starts screeching to a halt.
Right, exactly.
Housing developments, they're usually the first one to go, whoa, 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 whoa. I don't want to put out all this money. These lots can sit here vacant for a while, and they'll still be there, in 5 years or whenever it comes back up.
Do a little finish dirt work on it, and it's still there.
Exactly. So, the commercial side of it still goes a little bit, somewhat. But the problem, like in the south where we're at, is it's almost tapped out for property in that area. So
it really is. I mean, there's nothing left over there.
No, they've come about as far south as they can. They've gone east and west, and now it's basically draining swampland and trying to shore it up in order to build houses and stuff like that there. So
right, especially when you live in a valley like we do.
Exactly.
There's only so far you can go.
Yep.
And we're there.
Yeah, no, we're there. You're absolutely right.
I think we're already overbuilt. I think there's some wheel grease going on with the politicians and the developers to allow stuff to be built that we don't have the infrastructure to support.
Absolutely.
I get that impression. There was an arson job down the street at that apartment complex. Middle of the night, one night, torched a bunch of apartments. That same developer has had arson at several of his developments over the years.
Right.
I'm not suspicious, but they ran the water main dry trying to pump water. And no one really said anything. It was like, what do you mean you ran the main dry?
Right.
So you didn't have the water resources available to even put a fire out if there was a fire there. Oh, people are still going to move in the apartments, though.
Right.
Well, what happens when people live there?
Yeah, exactly.
And we run the main dry.
Yep. Well, Fernley does the same thing. We have an office building down the street from our houses, and big, beautiful office building, and it has been unoccupied since it got built because they built this whole building, and Fernley doesn't have the water to give enough water pressure to run the sprinkler system, the fire system in it. So the building's unoccupied. It's been like that for 15 years, never been moved into.
Wow.
They let them build this huge building, and now the owner's out it's changed hands a few times since the original owner, and everybody who buys it runs into the same thing. They cannot get water to run the sprinkler system in it. And so it just sits vacant. But yeah, Fernley definitely has that problem. There's no infrastructure. It's tripled or quadrupled in size for a population, and the infrastructure is the same it was in the 70s. Yeah. There's nothing there.
Yeah, I don't know what the fix is, and we can't undo it.
Right.
But we got to stop growing.
Right.
For sure. We don't have water here.
No. So that's the thing about the desert. It's hard to get water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Holy moly.
Well, that lot that I had, we ended up selling it because we never could get water on it to build a shop, so we bought a shop across the street, and that was the biggest thing is anything commercial goes through the state of Nevada, not the county. So we went through the state. We were in for 4 years trying to get water to it because without water, you just have a lot that's not worth anything. Mm-hmm. So we ended up buying the building across the street so that we could use that building, and then 4 days before the lot closed, we got a water permit. So we just moved it on to the next owner, so hopefully they can do something with it. But we waited 4 years for a well permit and never got it.
Wow.
Yeah, but if you have the right money, like you said, that building down there.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, with the right wheel grease,
Yep.
like, oh no, we'll build 128 units and there's no water there.
Mm-hmm.
Move people in, there's still no water there.
Well, that was like that apartment building that they just built down there.
Mm-hmm.
It burned to the ground, half of it, because they couldn't get a fire truck in there.
Right.
Because they built it so close to everything else, they couldn't get a fire truck in there to get hooked up. So it literally burnt to the ground before
Right.
they could hook up the water to put it out.
That's awesome.
I was like, wow, that was a good idea.
That was
fellas.
piss
How did
poor
that pass
planning.
fire code?
Right. Do you guys have a lot of problems at your pit with the residential around it? Do they complain a lot or anything?
We get, like you would with anything, in the construction industry, we hear a lot about dust.
Dust, yep.
And stuff like that. The main problem, like the way that our pit is set up, is that it faces the mountain in the east. Well,
Gotcha.
obviously the sun comes up there, so we've all looked through your living room, and you look at it and you go, "Wow, man, look at all the dust, in the sunbeam coming through the curtains."
Right.
You know what I mean? It illuminates so much. So even when it comes up, and let's say we're not running a plant, we're not doing nothing, it still looks like a bomb went off there. It's just kind of the nature of the beast. So everybody sees that and they're like, oh my God, look at all the dust contamination they're putting in the air or this and that. And it's not so much the case.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's deceiving.
And I'm assuming you guys have to blast there too, huh?
Actually, we don't.
You don't? Okay.
We've the kind of rock that we have, it's actually fractured pretty well.
Okay.
So we're actually able to rip it and doze it with a dozer.
Gotcha. Well, that's probably a big plus than not having to blast around those houses.
Yeah, in the history of that place, I think we've blasted 3 times, twice within the last 20 years. And that was just because we couldn't get down with a dozer.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? So
that's pretty good because most of the pits around here do have to blast. All the ones I go to, I mean, I don't go to Rhyline, but all the ones I go to, most of them have to blast.
Yeah, no, we're pretty fortunate in that aspect. So and we got the pit really it flourished off. The name Rhyolite, it's spelled differently, but it comes from the type of rock that we have that's made for concrete use and stuff like that. So that's really what got that place started. Is they used to in the 80s they used to actually haul it down to here in Reno down to the Nugget there in Sparks, and they would actually load it up on rail cars. And they would ship it all over the west coast of the United States.
Yeah, it's wild. One of my other customers, they use cinder, so black cinder, red cinder, all that. And I didn't realize it until my dad started getting into trucking a little bit, and he actually trucks some of their cinder to Fernley, to the train station, or the, I guess, like depot or whatever you call it, and they load that cinder into train cars and bring it all over the U.S. So you have black cinder, red cinder, brown, they call it mocha cinder, and they ship it all over the U.S.
Oh, yeah.
It's wild. I didn't know that was the thing to ship rock around,
No, I mean, it was just because the specific gravity of this, of the material that they had at the time, stuff like that, it was so covenant, it was so great for strength for concrete and stuff like that. It was, you know what I mean? It was the thing to have. It was it was the best around.
And you guys are still doing a lot of rock for concrete, correct?
Not so much for concrete anymore. Rhyolite Aggregate, they used to own, it was called CB Concrete here in Reno. And they ended up selling that probably, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago or something like that. So once they sold that, the demand for making the concrete rock and stuff like that has kind of, obviously has diminished quite a bit. We do more now of construction aggregates, base and drain rock and things of that nature.
Do you do any decorative rock there? Or
no, not there. All constructed.
Okay.
No. So.
You guys have the DOT approved road base.
We do. We actually have to wash it. We run it through a
big wash plant there.
Yeah, it takes out, to get too specific, it takes out what we call the 100s and 200s.
Right.
So it's really it's the real fine stuff like that keeps it from compacting. And
Yep.
So tell me about your shirt. I'm going to change the subject.
My shirt. Oh, the AK Operators Union. Obviously, I like guns.
Yeah.
I think everybody.
I think we're all gunnies. Yeah.
So when I first started getting into it, I was like, man, what kind of rifle do I want to get? What's the first kind of rifle? And I was thinking, okay, I'll get an AK-47. So I get on YouTube, because you can find everything on YouTube.
Right.
I mean, everything is on there. And I came across this old boy that was the AK Operators Union. And he was a Russian, he's a Russian guy, and he was in the Special Forces or in the Army or whatever the case is. And he has a YouTube channel. Well, he does all these different tests and stuff like that on these rifles. And I mean, just beats the hell out of these things to see how far they'll go. And I like the channel. So anyway, I ended up buying a rifle and got onto his website and bought some parts and stuff like that for it. And when I bought the parts, he sent me a sweatshirt. So that's where I got that from.
That's a cool gun. Everyone says, they're kind of cheaply made and not very accurate. And last time I shot it, it was on the money at 100 yards with open sights, and I could repeat standing.
Right.
And that was your pig gun.
No, I mean, I've taken that. We've taken that all over the United States. We've taken it, to Texas to go pig hunting, and I mean, I love my AR-15s and my hunting rifles, 7mm mags and all stuff like that. But I'm telling you, out of everything that I own, that is the most accurate rifle that I have. It is truly impressive.
Nothing like Russian pressed steel, huh?
And maybe that's what this has actually got a milled receiver on it, so it's actually not even pressed. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it or not, but man, it's on the money. I hear people say all the time, how can you do that? Or with that thing, we've went out to the shooting ranges out there towards Pyramid Lake, and they've got gongs up there. What is it, 800 yards? And ringing 800-yard gongs with that thing all day long, as long as you want to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
do you have a Safe Queen?
A Safe Queen?
Yeah, your favorite gun.
Yeah, I do have a favorite gun. I have a POF that I actually got from Drew. That's a 308.
Okay.
So it's an AR-10.
Okay.
And that's probably my favorite gun. I can't hit shit with it, but it's still my favorite gun. Yeah.
It feels real good.
It feels real good.
I get it.
Yeah. So that's my favorite gun. So I mean, I actually got had at the gun store the other day. I went in there to there's a new gun store in Fernley, and I was trying to get a AR pistol. I want a 9mm AR pistol, and ended up walking out with a 9mm regular AR. So now I still need an AR pistol. So
Damn.
yeah, no, I was like, "Fuck, you got me, dude."
I'll be back.
Yeah. So the funny part was I had gone in to get, it's a gun store, liquor store, and they're not the same store, but they share a wall.
Of course it is.
Yeah, so I went into the liquor store to buy beer for the shop, so I threw that on the front seat of the service truck, and then I was like, fuck, I'll go talk to this dude about an AR. So I walked in there, left with an AR, so I get in my service truck, I was like, I'm a piece of shit, dude, there's fucking 2 cases of beer and an AR. I was like, man, let's get through the shop's closed.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so it was it was the most Nevada shit you could do, just gun store, liquor store, and leave.
Perfect.
I mean, what about you? You've got about more guns than anybody I know.
I don't know if I could narrow it down. That's a tough one for me. For an AR platform, I have a Daniel Defense with a Trijicon on it. It's a DDM7 Pro. Took it to the shooting class in Vegas. Loved it. It's a little heavy. It's a tack driver. I can hit anything I want. It doesn't make a very loud bang, and it doesn't shoot very far. I like 6.5 Creedmoor. The gun I've been working on lately is a 338 Lapua Mag. I have Ruger it's a chassis gun, Ruger Precision. I load my own ammo for that. That's fun to shoot, and it goes a long ways.
A long ways.
Yeah.
That's probably my favorite at the moment, just because it makes a lot of noise and
Right.
smoke. What about you, Hammer? You're awfully quiet over there.
Yeah, I'm just listening to you guys. I don't know. I mean, right now I only have like just kind of a personal defense kind of stuff. So I have a 1911. I have a 10mm that I'm building, and then I have 45 ACP. I just like the bigger guns. I can't do compacts that just don't fit in my hand right. And then for rifles, rifles, I don't know. I mean, it's obviously not the best rifle out there, but it has some sentimental value. So it's probably 30-06 is probably my favorite.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What was that big ass gun you had? That brush gun?
458 SOCOM.
Oh man.
Yeah, that's my home defense gun.
In case there's someone breaking into your neighbor's house.
I mean,
Well, yeah. So
you could do
if you take
remodeling
them
with
out,
it.
it also takes out your refrigerator.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's probably my favorite.
Yeah, when the bad guy's hiding behind your neighbor's refrigerator.
That's right, yeah. Well, and I have a problem too, especially with Drew, because anytime he builds a gun and then he wants to build a new gun, he just texts me and he's like, "Hey, you want this thing?" I was like, "Oh, fuck, okay."
Yes.
So that's where most of my guns come from, is when Drew gets tired of whatever he builds, and it just fucking ends up in my safe.
That works, though.
Yeah, it works good for me.
Keep it in the
'cause
family.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, see, my problem is this guy. He calls me up and says, "Hey, let's go to the gun store."
Right.
And all I can think of is, oh shit.
Right.
Okay, let's go.
Might as well. You might, even if you're not looking for something, you might find something.
Oh, you'll find something.
Yeah, I always find something. That's a problem.
Oh, man.
And my wife's planning on getting a cat, and I don't want a cat. So I think that's what had to do with that 9mm too. I was like, well, she said I don't need more guns, so here's a fucking gun right here. Have fun with your cat. Without changing the subject too much, what's your favorite part about equipment operating? Because obviously you like it. You've been doing it for forever.
My favorite part, I don't know. I guess it was the challenge of wanting to get to be the best operator that I could possibly be. I guess.
Right.
It was try to become the best operator. At that pit at the time and stuff like
Right.
that. That's really what I wanted to do. And so, my uncle, like I said, worked there and ended up getting me the job. And he taught me a lot of tricks and this and that, and he had worked there for a long time. He was probably the greatest loader operator that I've ever been around. So I really watched him and what he would do and this and that, and he would tell me tricks. Okay, we'll try this and try that. Well, some of the things would work for me, and I tell this to some of the guys that we hire. It's like, look, some of the things that I'm teaching you or training you to do, it might work for me, but it might not work for you. So maybe take all these, all these different ways of doing things and maybe try and compound them into something that works for you.
Right. And I'm assuming with you working there so long, you probably started at the bottom doing a small, with different equipment, and slowly worked your way up to do other things?
Actually, you know what? Being that I had equipment experience, I was actually pretty lucky. The first day that I got hired there, I got put on a front end loader.
Oh, okay.
On a 980, and been there pretty much ever since. Run a dozer here and there, or a haul pack, or
Right.
one of our excavators, stuff like that. But primarily, I stay on a wheel loader.
Gotcha. And are you guys using like wiggle wagons there, or hard frame rock truck? Or?
Yeah, just hard frame rock
Okay.
trucks and Volvos.
Okay.
Is what we have
Yeah.
there. Yeah. So
Do you guys agree on the best equipment, like Cat, John Deere, Kubota?
I mean, for me, if you're going to be working on it, Cat's the easiest. I think there's no questions asked that Cat has the best product support, the best manuals, the best parts availability out of anybody. Granted, COVID had a lot to do with that, and parts availability went down. Cat doesn't necessarily make the best piece of equipment, but as far as product support goes, I would say that they're the best, in my opinion.
no, I would agree. I would agree with that. We've out there we've had Komatsus out there and Volvos and everything like that, and they're great. But they just didn't have the longevity, let's say, of the Caterpillar that we usually run. So after ownership, I mean, you pay $500,000 for a piece of equipment. You want it to last more than 5 or 6
Forever,
years.
yeah.
You know what I mean? You don't want it to blow a hydraulic pump and then the whole thing just falls on the ground.
Right.
Which we actually had a Komatsu do at one of the times. So things like that, the ownership just strictly sticks with Caterpillars as far as our wheel loaders and stuff like that. Now,
Yep.
excavators, we have Volvos, and that had a lot to do, I think, with what they were offering.
Right.
With the time, and they're good pieces of equipment. And the price wise, they're not as expensive. And I think that's a lot of the Caterpillar stuff is you end up paying a lot for the name
Exactly.
as well.
Oh,
But
yeah.
there comes a lot with that as
Yeah.
well.
Like Volvo makes a great hoe. Hitachi makes a great hoe. Volvo makes a great rock truck. Dozer wise, I don't think that there's anything out there that competes with a Cat.
I would
Komatsu makes a great dozer, but the longevity of the dozer, along with product support, is not there. It just isn't.
I'm not a flat track guy. So.
Yeah, not a flat track. Liebherr came out with that new high track, and they are fucking badass. But the parts availability for them is non-existent. It's not there. They do make a great dozer, but the parts availability and the techs that are out there that can actually work on them are non-existent.
Yep.
They're few and far between. A Cat dozer, honestly, from a T2 to a T, T's came out in the mid 2000s, and a T2 now, most of the hard parts are the same. And a lot of the creature comforts, electrical components, stuff like that are all, especially with tier 4 emissions and stuff, there's a lot of differences, but for the most part, the dozer's proven, and they use the same parts.
So let's talk trucks for a minute.
Yeah.
I'm outnumbered here. I'm
Well,
almost
one of us is gay and one's not.
I'm almost uncomfortable.
Yeah.
All three of you have brand new Ford pickups.
Yep.
Why'd you buy? I know Jimmy bought a new Ford because he had an old Ford.
Right.
You bought a new Ford because you had an old Ford.
Yep.
The Hammer bought a new Ford because he had an old Dodge. So that's logical.
I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah. The Hammer's an opportunist. Whatever he gets the best deal on that he can make power
It
with,
makes
that's
sense.
what he's driving.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
It made the most power out of any new truck, so
Yeah.
I had to go with that.
Yeah.
Same reason I bought a Tesla. I didn't buy it for economy. I wanted the fastest thing out there for the money.
Yeah.
So then, I'll throw the question back on you. That he said, that why did the gay guy buy the Chevy?
It's like my 8th Chevy truck.
What's that tell you?
And I've never had
You
one.
take one dick and you never go back.
I never had a Chevy truck leave me on the side of the road.
I've had a Ford truck leave me on the side of the road a couple times.
Like, I guess it sold me. When we go to my wife has a Chevy. When we go rent a car at the airport, I get a Chevy because I know where the buttons are, and it's probably not going to leave me on the side of the road.
Probably.
Funny story. We went to my sister's second wedding. Same husband, just got married again. And my wife wanted to switch it up. She's like, let's not rent a Chevy. Let's rent something that we've never rented before. And they had a Porsche and a Range Rover, and the Porsche was broken. Not a big surprise.
Right.
So I guess we're taking the Range Rover. What a pile of shit. Mm-hmm. And it left her on the side of the road. She had to call my brother to change a tire because she couldn't find the tools to change a tire, and it looked like she ran over a shopping cart.
Right.
She's like, no, that was in the tire the whole time. I was like, there's no way it was in the tire when we picked it up
Right.
from the rental place. My Lord. But I always a Chevy guy. I don't know. Can't tell you why.
We all can't be perfect. It's
Yeah.
all right.
But the BMWs have left you on the side of the road, right?
I've broken a few BMWs.
Yeah.
Might have been my own fault. Might have been the car's fault. Yeah, my wife's first BMW, I told her how great they were, and every time we drove it to California, we had to get towed home. She's like, I fucking hate BMWs. I don't want to ever have another BMW, and she has a BMW now.
Right. My wife's BMW never broke down on her. It was a good car. It's just very expensive to work on.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you got to bring your wallet, for
Yeah.
sure.
They're fun to drive, though.
They are fun to
Yeah,
drive.
yeah.
What's one thing that you would like to tell everybody if they're trying to get into your industry?
Trying to get into my industry, boy, I don't know. I mean, I guess the one thing is you're gonna have to go to a smaller company
Right.
and try and work your way up to, to try and get some kind of experience on equipment. I guess it would be.
Right.
That's kind of the hard thing. I think in the construction industry right now is, like we talked about earlier, is the availability to get on these things and learn. So I guess you pretty much have to work your way up from there, and start, job hopping here and there until you get experience enough to.
Do like a little landscaping company and then
Yeah.
move your way up type of deal?
Yeah, I mean, whatever. Go to work for a cemetery, learn how to run a backhoe,
Yeah, exactly.
and things like that. I mean, that I really don't know. It would, if I didn't know how to run a piece of equipment or be an equipment operator, it would be really tough.
Right.
I think to get in there, you almost have to know somebody or somebody that's going to take the time, that will mentor you on these things, or
Yeah.
things of that nature. But other than that, I don't
One
know.
thing I always tell people is, we have a lot of mining in the industry, in the area, and that's an easier way to get in because it's out in the middle of nowhere. It's not fun to be out there. You don't have a real, there's not a party life. There's none of that stuff, especially for a young person, but it is an easy way to get in, and you're going to learn how to run. You'll be on a haul truck first, and then they'll maybe put you on like a rubber tire dozer, and then that kind of stuff, and it will get you experience to get into. And same thing goes for mechanics. I mean, a lot of mines, if you show up and you can tie your boots,
Yeah,
you can run a loop truck.
yeah, you're changing oil.
Yeah, exactly. So it is a good way if that's something that you're looking at getting into, is maybe try a mining side of it as well. If not, work
No,
for
yeah, I
a
would
little
agree.
local guy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for being on the show today,
Yeah,
Jimmy.
thanks for coming out.
Well, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it. Had a good time.
Got
Right
some
on.
good stories. Thank you to all of our listeners. That is the conclusion of episode 2, Torque and Horsepower.